Grand Rising to all of my beautiful people out there, all of the Rainbow Tribe, Starseeds, Indigos, families. Hello, I am Kiki, and I am coming to you today with some information, whether it be information that I study, I learned, or it may be just my own personal experience. So if you would like to subscribe and like, that would be a wonderful, wonderful blessing for me, as it will be sent back to you. So recently I had to attend an I guess you would say an orientation. So that's when the families come in and they meet the teachers, and yeah, they just kind of, get a feel of the school and what's expected and paperwork and all that good stuff. And so one of my students came in crying, like bawling her eyes out. And I approached her and I was like, girl, you okay? And she was just so upset. Beautiful black little girl. So upset she couldn't even really get the words out. And her mom came up and she was like, well, she was bullied really badly last year. And she's afraid that she may be in the same class with the girls that bullied her. And so my heart really went out to her with that situation, because I know what it's like being bullied. And my children also experience bullies. And a lot of people don't understand how much that can really impact the way someone else act or how someone else feels. So, but if you scroll back through some of my previous videos, I talked about some of my experiences of being bullied, not only by my classmates, but I was bullied by family members, cousins, and stuff like that. But it just had me really thinking about the whole school structure. And sometimes I tend to kind of get in my feelings and I overthink, even if it's just about that little issue. I start to kind of dig deep and wonder, why it's set up the way it's set up. So, like, for an example, I always wanted to understand what is really truly success. What is considered, intelligent and smart. And so as I kind of reflect more on that, I said to myself, all right, the government, and I always start at the government because it just seems like you can kind of track more of how they impacted, how their laws, their ideas, and lifestyle just really influenced our world and impacted us in different ways. And when I say different ways, because some cultures had it a little bit more easier than others. But with that being said, it just bothers me and it doesn't sit right with me. And maybe we can call it because I've been enlightened, because of my spiritual awakening, but it just seems like a system was put in place for everyone to follow, and if they can't keep up, then they fall between the cracks. So when I look at the school system, right, and I look at the curriculum, and then I look at the way the procedures. Okay, so when I'm grading a student, I'm basically looking at how the student performed based on the curriculum, right? And if they fail at retaining the information that was taught out of the curriculum, then they pretty much get a failing grade. That alone can affect the child's self-esteem and motivation. That alone can also put stress on the teacher, because now the teacher have to really dig out of her bag of tricks to try to get this child to really understand what they need to understand in order to do well on the assignments and lesson. But even if the child makes straight A's or fail, who's to say that someone is intelligent or not? And I say this because I feel like just because someone makes straight A's throughout school does not automatically make them smarter than everybody else. They may be smart enough to do well on tests, do well with, following through on assignments. But it just means that they have been shaped and molded into a working class citizen. Okay? The government is designing schools and the curriculum for students to become working class citizens. So that means when it comes to critical thinking, they are trying to figure out how to resolve different issues so they can perform better at a task. And then if they perform better, it makes the business look good. And the more money and revenue the business generates, the more goes up into the government pockets. So when I can remember back then, because I've been an average student, and I think I started making AB Honor Roll once I changed my environment, because I didn't have the best environment growing up. So I remember my mom telling me, well, you might as well join the Army. And I said to myself, yeah, I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I considered it, because I kept hearing you get free schooling. But no one ever talks about the side effect of working for the government. And yes, I still work for the government in so many ways because I am a teacher. But it's like, no matter what you do regarding the government employment, it seems like it comes at a price. It comes at almost risking your life. So I said to myself, okay, if I join the Army, right, I get free schooling, but at what cost? Will I come back with all my limbs? Will I have a sane or a healthy mental and emotional health after going over and possibly blowing up somebody's village, or, killing somebody's child over some property, over some land? It's like, at what price and how much are you willing to sacrifice your dignity and your integrity for the name of the red, white, and blue flag? So that's kind of what hit me. Like, some people, they're so conditioned and programmed to satisfy another group of people that they may not ever meet or may never fit their criteria. It just seems like they expect so much out of us, and that not only just being in the Army, whatever department you decide to choose, but even as a teacher, it's like we're sacrificing a lot of time, a lot of our mental and emotional health to make sure that these kids meet the certain level that they need to succeed. And then that's not always easy when you have a whole class of different backgrounds and different personalities, and you're trying to pretty much force them to all think the same, all pass the same test, and get moved on. So that's a task all in itself. And I mean, not just talking about wearing all these different hats just to achieve a certain goal. And then you have to risk making sure that these children are in the right state of mind, because if not, that's when we find kids coming back to the school either bullying other kids to the point to where they want to unalive themselves, or whether they're trying to harm the teacher or admin because of something that they disagreed to. So it's always like a risk when it comes down to doing something for the government. Whether you a police officer, you're constantly trying to enforce these laws, but then at the end of the day, it's like a pick and choose. Like, I'm going to bother the citizens and make sure they follow the laws, but it's limitation, when it comes to people with money, the higher ups. So to me, I just really think that a lot of stuff that's put in place, and you may hear me say this 100 times in my videos, but it really needs to be revised. And if it doesn't, it's just we're going to just all become robots. And I mean, I said that for myself. I mean, I know I got to have a way to pay my bills, and this is the route I chose, but it's like the excitement is kind of slowly fading out, because it's like, yes, I love sharing knowledge. I mean, I'm doing it now on the weekend. I love seeing people get it and feeling confident and moving on to be successful. I mean, even if it's more than what I have, I love to see people do well and then give back to our community. But it's like the rules and stipulation, they make it so hard and they take the joy out of it. I was just looking at our schedule, and it's like, you gotta teach and be rushed to teach at a certain time. Like, what if all my kids don't get it at a certain time? You know what I mean? It's not that I'm not a good teacher, but what if all children just don't get it? And so then we got to move on to the next level, to the next lesson the next day. You know what I mean? And it's like, we have to mold them in being obedient. So once we get that under control, then it makes my life easier. It makes the next teacher life easier. And then eventually it'll make the police officer life easier. But there's a little corrupt in everything, in every job, and every person. So I don't know. It just seems like, it's just crazy. You know, it brings me back to this story. Just imagine you have blue-looking people that roam the earth for many, many years. They had a nice, fair system set up. They respected each other. They respected the land. And then all of a sudden, some gray-looking people decide to come along and change it all up. So just because they feel like, okay, we know how to strategically do things a certain way. Like, for an example, they may be better at hunting and grabbing up all the animals and taking them out versus the natural way of, okay, getting some of the animals, but not to the point to where, okay, they become extinct. You know, that's the blue people take their time and kind of be fair and think logically, but the gray people want to rush and do things and own things and control things just because, you know, that they can. That's like they're ego driven. And so, okay, so the blue people, they say, okay, well, I'm gonna try to see if I can work with the gray people. But then the gray people start to ridicule the blue people because, okay, they don't think like them, they don't look like them, they don't eat like them. And so now the gray people are trying to impose all of their ideas onto the blue people to make them change and conform to the way they do things. So instead of eating natural, holistic foods, okay, well, you need to eat more meat because this is the best way to get protein. But then the blue people saying, okay, well, why do we got to eat it through the animal? Why we have to get it through the animal? Why we can't just create our own, you know, plant our seeds and just eat it naturally like that? Then the gray people, no, it tastes better. You gotta take the blood and make sure it's soaked in and sprinkle some seasoning on it and it make it juicy and I'm gonna advertise for it and it's good. And so now you got the blue people feeling some type of way like, okay, well, I guess so, since this is what they're pushing on us. And then you got and then it goes from the food to, okay, now the gray people saying, oh, here's another idea. You shouldn't pray and worship, you know, the ancestors because you can't see them and that's evil. So then the blue people, they're like, okay, well, our ancestors was here, but they ended up passing away and we're just trying to remember them and show them reverence and love while they are over in the spiritual realm. But the gray people are saying, no, that's not the right way to do it. You need to change all of that up and believe in the God that we created, the God that looked like us, the God that we know. And you can't talk about your ancestors, even though you know them, you've seen them before. Their bloodline run through your blood vein. No, we're going to create a book, and you're going to follow this procedure, and that's how it's supposed to be. So you got to follow this book, live by these structures, these rules, and then that is all that matters. Because whatever you talk about, it doesn't matter. It's not going to make a difference in your life. But if you worship our people and our energy and our ideas, then you'll get more blessed. But okay, at what cost? Okay? You going and you're pretty much the blue people feeling like, okay, well, now we gotta take all what we know, hide it somewhere, and then just live a life that we know don't really sit right with us, but we just trying to fit in. Yeah, that's pretty much what's been done to us, to our blue people. And then that wasn't even good enough. So now they done convinced us to stop eating a certain way, stop believing in nature, stop believing in our ancestors, stop worshiping their type of deities and entities, follow their rituals, and leave ours behind. Or probably steal some of our rituals and kind of switch it up just so they can feel like, okay, well, we don't feel too guilty because we still let them do some of the stuff, but they still doing it our way. So it goes from that to now the structure of our society. So now the gray people saying, okay, so we came up with this bright idea. We putting schools in place. We put religion in place. Now we're putting prisons in place. So if anybody disobey our ideas of how the structure of our society should be, then we got a backup plan. So if they drop out of school, then they can't get the jobs that fit our structure, or they can get the jobs that fit our structure, but it'll be a low-paying, struggling job. And so maybe they'll struggle so much to where they'll want to go back to school. And a lot of times, like I said, the more you get paid, the more your life could be at risk. I mean, I've heard about people robbing banks, shooting people. I've heard about people owning, stores, getting shot up. I've heard, or working at stores. I've heard about pastors and members in the church getting shot. I've heard about teachers, principals getting shot up. I've heard about police officers getting shot up, but I barely hear about janitors getting shot up. I barely hear about somebody at McDonald's getting shot up unless they probably participated in the game, but not just randomly, okay, I want to shoot and take something from you. So it's like, that's the system. That's the system. So a lot of people, and I'm not trying to judge and say one is better than the other. I'm just saying it's just crazy how things are just set up. And it's like, we don't look at the whole picture. We just look at, okay, I want to make more money. You got a government job? Oh, snap, you work for the state? Oh, snap. But at what cost? That's all I'm saying. We have free will, but what are you willing to sacrifice and risk? So now they got certain jobs put in place. They got people competing. They got people looking at each other differently. You got the blue people trying to figure out, okay, well, how can we mount up? How can we fit in? Because they done took over everything else. And so now we're being forced to do what they do and live the way they live. And so how do we fit in? But no matter what, when the gray people created the structure in the system, they're never, ever going to let the blue people get the upper hand and be above them. Never. If they don't have the gray blood running through their veins, there's no way. There's no way. No matter how much you outdo them at their game, no matter how much you are so perfectly fit in their structure, you will never outdo them. They will never let you get ahead of them. Never. But we constantly wake up and stress over these jobs. We constantly wake up, commit crimes, trying to make the money, try to flex and fit in. Go to their prison system, come out bragging, yeah, man, I did 10 years, man, I'm hard. But you never get the respect from the people that created the system. It's like, you can go to college, you can get about 5 degrees, master, PhD, no matter what, doctor, it doesn't matter. You still got to follow the system. Still got to fit in. No one is really brave enough to start their own system, their own idea, and go back to the roots of when things were a little bit more calm and normal. I don't ever recall, even in the Bible, any children running around scared, crying their eyes out because they're going to be bullied. I don't ever recall during any gatherings somebody decided to come up and shoot at everybody or sling them with rocks or knives. I just don't recall any stories like that. Even with our relationships, they influence our relationship. The grays influence the blue relationship. You gotta provide this way. If you don't provide this way and treat your woman this way, then you don't mount up. And so now we got a whole lot of masculine women walking around. And when I say masculine, it's just a way of acting. It doesn't mean that they're all lesbians and butchy. But it's just now they're walking around feeling like, okay, I got to wear the man pants because I'm not getting respected. And then now you got the men walking around trying to act like the female, bitch about certain things and be insecure and jealous and let's compete. And let me show that, I got options and just in case this female don't act right. And so now it's like everything is so flipped around and imbalanced. And then you got some of the men playing these roles of, okay, I'm going to be DL, but at the same time, I'm going to try to play a role to fit in the society. Doesn't that sound familiar? Isn't that what the blues had to do? They had to fit in. They had to hide certain parts of themselves, their true selves, in order to fit in with the grays. And so everybody's afraid to be transparent. So that's why a lot of people walk around here lost and miserable, and all of the roles, the natural roles, have been switched around and flipped. You got children trying to understand, okay, well, mama punished me for lying, but now mama lying? Mama don't want to be straight up and honest? Mama don't want to admit that she got some childhood traumas? Why mama keep beating on me? Because she frustrated with life? She frustrated with this, she frustrated with that? She trying to convince me that, Santa Claus exists or rabbits can lay eggs. All of this stuff that been pushed upon the blue people. And then we're trying to walk around judging each other, walking around looking at each other up and down and hating on each other. But we all following the same BS. We all supporting the same BS. We listen to the music that support the BS. Females rapping about fuck men and we getting that bag. And then you got the men over here, they rapping about, man, who can get the highest. It done went from the marijuana to now it's the Percocet. So now it's like, what's next? What's next? So yeah, that played in my brain. And I'm just trying to see how I can navigate through it and survive it. And hopefully before I leave this world, I can see more positive changes and just less crazy backward stuff going on in our society. Because if it doesn't change, we're in for a rude awakening. We're in for a rude awakening. And I want to see everybody make it. I do. I really want to see everybody make it. No, I'm not expecting perfection. I mean, I'm not even perfect. We all have our weaknesses and we have some trauma running through our bloodline that need to be healed. But when you know better, you just do better. That's it. You know better, you do better. So even though I may have made some fucked up choices back then, it's like when okay, that was wrong and I want to be a better person, then you work toward that. You don't just keep feeding the ego. You don't keep indulging in some BS. So, but yeah, it just laid on my mind. I'm about to go back to the school system and I hope that I can speak life in these children. I done went from now being responsible for 20 kids to now I'm dealing with 60. So, but yeah, I got works to do. And it's not only just for the government, but it is a spiritual job that I am trying to fulfill to the best of my ability. And that's why I bring these videos. That's it. That's why I bring these videos to you. So with that being said, feel free, like I said, to like and subscribe and comment. It just helps me with my algorithm. It helps me know what kind of information I need to bring out. And just know that I'm all about positivity. I'm all about change. Like I said, I'm working towards being a change agent. And I wish you all the best. And I do love you. And until next time, peace out.